Are you looking for a way to scale your short-term rental business and buy more properties? Well, co-hosting might be the right fit for you. Welcome to the Cohost Coach podcast with Joe Roney. This episode of the Cohost Coach is brought to you by Savvy STR Agents. If you're looking to buy a short-term rental, then contact the STR Savvy Agent team at savvy.realty.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Cohost Coach. I am Joe Roney, and I am super excited to have Chelsea Cutrer with me today. And Chelsea is actually really close to where I own and manage properties. So, Chelsea, tell me a little bit about what areas you're in right now.
Yeah, Joe, thanks for having me on. So I focus just on the 38 area. So that's anywhere from Inlet all the way to Dune Allen, obviously in the Florida Panhandle.
Okay, awesome. So, we just a few days ago, my wife and kids, we were down there, and my daughters are late teens in college, and they'd never been to 30A, so we actually spent a full day, half a day in Rosemary, half a day in Seaside, and we've never actually stayed there, but it's a beautiful area.
Yeah, it really is. Like my kids, go to Seaside Square, play ball, and just love it. The bike riding and the beaches, and it's just such a great vibe. We call it the Hamptons of the South.
It is. It's absolutely beautiful there. As a realtor, I can't find anything that cash flows, so I don't send a lot of investors there unless they're looking for a lifestyle asset. But it is an absolutely beautiful area. So Chelsea, tell me a little bit about your short-term rental journey, so everybody gets to know you. So when did you get started in short-term rentals?
Yeah, so it's been a little bit over 3 years, so maybe 3.5 years ago, we bought actually in watercolor. And it's interesting, we started going to watercolor during the pandemic with some friends, fell in love with the area. Some other friends started buying as well in the area. So we initially thought, oh, this is going to pay for itself. And we're going to come out here and enjoy it. So at that time, we signed up with the property manager.
Okay. So you so 2022, so similar time frame that we bought our first short-term rental as well. So similar time frame. So you bought in watercolor, and then how many properties do you own currently?
So today we own 4. So we own in watercolor, and then we own 3 on the water. So more Gulf front, sort of different assets, but all sort of probably within a mile or 2 miles of each other. So super close.
Wow. And that's
Yeah.
awesome. So, so obviously owning there, you realized self-managing is the better way to go, which led you into potentially co-hosting.
Yes. So after working with a property manager for about a year, I felt like all the tricks of the trade and thought, I can do this better. So I was still actually in technology, selling cybersecurity. And probably for about a year, I had 2 properties. So I was, self-managing and then also had a full-time job. And then from there, we added 2 more. So I was remodeling and getting pretty busy and then had 4. And then so about that time, I said, I think I'm going to start doing this full time. And so I really didn't know if I was going to get into co-hosting or kind of what was next.
Yep.
But I had a lot of success and my properties were doing really well with design and cash flowing. And so people were coming to me, hey, can you help me? Can you manage mine? Can you coach me? And so that's how it sort of all started.
Awesome. So you did a little coaching in the beginning to help some other owners?
I did. I was doing a lot of one-on-one to just show them how, all the technology can automate a lot of the stuff that they needed to do, sort of streamline all the process. And that came very natural just coming from a technology background. So
Yeah.
using the technology that was available made it so much easier. And I got about 3 clients where I was helping on a one-to-one basis. And I was struggling a little bit because I was like, I don't think this is sustainable. It's a lot of time to help these
Yes.
clients get up and running, and they wanted to pay me a smaller percentage.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay, I can't add on that many more clients because I'm kind of running out of time and bandwidth.
Yep. No, I agree, and that I did a little bit of the same. Did some consulting and coaching up front on a few things, and I started with like an hourly rate and then, but, as far as co-hosting, I never went into like full until I went full into co-hosting. So you were doing the consulting for a while. How did you land your first co-hosting client?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. Those people that I was coaching, I initially was talking to them about signing up with owner res and helping them with the technology. And it's interesting. They said, "Can you just stay on?" And so they were just the initial thing was, "Hey, can you just stay on for a couple months? And once I have this, it'll be fine." But it's
Yep.
interesting. No one ever left. Everyone wanted me to stay, and no one wants me to go anywhere.
Yep. Yep. It's great because when you do a good job and you're taking care of people, they see it as a benefit because, a lot of people will tell you, you got to self manage, you got to self manage. And I'm going to tell you right now, to be successful, if you want a cash flowing property, you have to self manage. There's not many deals out there in today's market that you can hire a property manager and pay 20% or more and still get a profit. But there's some people that are buying it for a lifestyle asset, and I'm assuming a lot of your properties are more lifestyle assets for your investors or the people that you're managing for.
I would say yes and no. It really depends on what it is. I would say my approach is a little bit different. So, a lot of people approach me saying, "Hey, we're struggling. We bought this because we thought it was maybe even going to pay for itself. And it's not
Yep.
even doing that. And oh, by the way, each month it's costing me $8,000." So they're kind of between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
So I a lot of times have to have these difficult conversations with them and say, "This is what you need to change." And I'm probably one of the few people that'll tell people that, like, this paint color is not going to cut it. We need to do white.
Yep.
This furniture looks like grandma's cabin somewhere.
Yes.
And so I'm really able to turn homes around and really give them the look and feel that people are expecting and people are willing to pay more for.
Now, do you go in and do the redesigns for your co-host clients and do the work?
I have started doing, there was a big project I just worked on the winter. I'm usually working on my own projects, but I took this client on and it was awesome. He's already done 60,000 in revenue in 3 weeks, so it's doing amazing. But I'm not like you. I know you're actually like hanging the wallpaper, and I'm mostly telling the contractors what to do and where stuff's going to go and what we need to order
Yep.
and that sort
I'm
of
looking
thing.
forward to that day that my wife and I are doing that, but we're still growing a business, so we're just doing it a little bit different. But we do enjoy it. We truly enjoy doing these projects together. So it is fun.
It,
So
it is a lot of fun just to like think of the house or the condo and how it can be best utilized and designed and just coming up with different ideas for sure.
yeah, yeah. So what is your so obviously you started in the co-hosting model, but then
Mhm.
shifted gears into full property management. So what does that look like, and the differences between the two? And are you still you said you're kind of still doing a little bit of both. So what does that look like?
Yeah, so some I actually co-host where they're maybe on the Airbnb account and they can see the messages, but they're not really involved, and so they still own the listing.
Yep.
What I found out is that, I had a little bit of issues where people, maybe wanted me to pay the local taxes, but they were late in paying me a couple months or that sort of thing. And it was also a little bit more difficult to scale because you are still working with that owner and they do have visibility. What I ended up sort of moving to was that full management. So I got into more, I would say, higher end properties where they're super busy professionals, right?
Yep.
Because anybody could probably self-manage. But a lot of it is do you have the time? And a
Yep.
lot of these busy professionals are like, no, I've got a job that I work 60 hours at. The last
Yeah.
thing I want to do is get all these pings from people. My
Yeah.
door code won't work.
Yes.
And so they were really looking for someone to take over and do a great job managing. So they want to have limited, management. They don't want to do anything with it. So
Yep.
it's worked out well, and it's allowed me to scale really fast. So I went from two properties to obviously four really quick with ours, and now I'm up to 26.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. And so what's the average gross revenue of each one of your properties? Are you having, more luxury properties or a little bit of a mix still?
I would say a little bit of mix. As I continue to grow, I'm really trying to figure out, what the sweet spot is. And
Hmm.
so I'm sort of getting into that, okay, the minimum's around 100K kind of going into this year, just because I only have a limited bandwidth. I just got my first VA, a little bit ago and trying to get them up and going. So I have to, consider that. But I would say anywhere from today, 50,000 to, closer to 300,000
Okay.
is really the range. So there's a very wide range of
Yeah.
sizes and revenue for sure.
Yep. Yep. I kind of like that happy medium in the middle there. Most of mine are in the 125 to 225 range. I so far the one property that I have that's the 250 plus feel like there's definitely more high maintenance guests when you get to that price range. And then on the lower ones, you're just not making enough money. So far for me, that's been the sweet spot. Are you seeing that too, or are you still pretty good on the luxury properties, the 300 plus?
Yeah, I would say probably the sweet spot, the same with you. I think it's a good mix of, being able to manage it well without having, people complaining all the time and
Yes.
expecting you to roll out the red carpet,
Yeah.
and it's almost as much work as than these lower end properties. And sometimes it can be just as much, if not more work.
Mhm.
Sometimes they could be more nitpicky if they're getting discounts and lower end properties. And then they're
Yeah.
saying, oh, but it's not remodeled. And you're like, well, you didn't pay the remodeled price,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep. Yep. And I'll be honest. So the little bit of time that I have spent in 30A recently, there's a couple of the big names overall that you see over and over on the strip. How has your partnership been with other property management companies? Do you talk to any of the other property managers in the area, or do they know who you are now that you're starting to grow and scale? Are you starting to make a name in that area?
It's kind of interesting. I am getting business from them, so they probably don't like me if they know who I am. But I would say I get more referrals from realtors really in the area,
Yeah.
of them just someone that, hey, if you want to make money and you want to do well and you don't want to manage, you should talk to her.
Yep.
So, that's always a good feeling when you're getting referrals and people are recommending you, and a lot of on the Facebook groups, the local Facebook groups, a lot of people will recommend me. I think, there's a lot of big names out there, but I think, it's hard when you have hundreds of listings. I tell people it's really hard, especially in this environment, to give you the attention that you deserve,
Yep.
especially from like a marketing and revenue and being able to make those little shifts to get you booked.
So what does the cap look like for you? What's the most that you want to take on?
Oh gosh. I don't know. I don't know if there's a number in mind. I think this year it's a lot about like I talked about, just the mix of properties,
Yeah.
and it might be more focused on, say, watercolor, because I'm, starting to get more properties there. I've got to hit a few more requirements. I do have a couple properties there, obviously one that I own, but they have some requirements as far as like insurance and different, things that I have to jump through. So that's something that I'm thinking about this year is kind of what I want my business to do. And my husband jokes like none will ever be enough. No, it will, because at some point I want to take vacations and then, enjoy some time.
Yeah, yeah, I do have one virtual assistant that I have, and adding another one this week to help me in all aspects of the business because we do have some big vacations planned for this spring and this summer that we plan to do, and I do want to get to a point where I can unplug, but it's really hard. So I'm assuming you don't have a VA, so you're still handling 100% of the guest communication, sending out rental agreements, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yes, I would say my automation is really, really good. My tech stacks,
Yep.
OwnerRes and Price Labs and all that. And one thing I did incorporate is actually Host Buddy AI. So I'm using AI, and I've been able to sort of train it with my other messaging. So it sounds very much like me, same tone. It's definitely not perfect, but that's been a real game changer. And so now that I finally do have a VA, I went through one and working on another. She's doing a lot of sort of the marketing,
Yep.
and then reading the messages because she's got to read the message to see if they're accurate. But it's crazy, like how fast and accurate they're able to respond. So I think that's been a real game changer.
Yeah. No, I think that was one of the questions that I was going to ask you is how the host AI is going because I have not gone the route of the host AI buddy. I have the owner tech stack, but I still have hospitable because I haven't API connected all of my verbos. Although I'm in the process of doing that. I just API connected 2 new co-host properties today, and I'm decided I'm just gonna API connect them all because I'm tired of the messaging system not being all in the same spot is basically what I'm tired of. So how does how does your messaging on Verbo look through OwnerRez?
Yeah, so it still goes through owner and does all the autoresponder and all that. I would say the one challenge to today, I guess that faced a couple weeks ago, is I guess Verbo had changed where you can't put links, in their messaging. So that was a little bit of a pain with the contract. So,
Yep.
you know, got all that fixed. But I would say the Host Buddy AI is so smart. So we actually had an issue where the GFI, we found out for this particular if the GFI needs to be reset, it's in the laundry room and it controls all the outside, switches. Well, it remembered that we had this issue like a week or two ago, and so it was able to like troubleshoot with the next guest when she couldn't get hot water. So it's
Wow.
it's crazy. It's pretty crazy, yeah. And
Interesting.
then I got another sort of review from a guest, obviously 5 stars. So Chelsea has to be the fastest response I have ever, responded on Airbnb, even at 5 a.m.
Yeah. That's great, because that's definitely one of the things that I'm trying to navigate through is, a lot of people have gone and had VAs do, the guest communication for them, and I'm still very hands-on. I want to do it myself. I actually love that part of the business. I love talking to guests. But there are times that I want to be able to turn my phone off and unplug. And so I could see the host AI being a benefit for that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm the same. I'm a bit of control freak. I want to know what's going on. I mean, some of these people that are able to like just turn their business and messaging over, to me, that's kind of scary, but
Yeah.
you know,
So, a lot of people have told, and I see it in the forums in 30A. One of the biggest complaints going on right now in 30A is the deeded beach access and not having anywhere to go to the beach and the public beaches being crowded. What is
mhm.
that looking like? And are you getting guests that are starting to get frustrated about that?
I would say, interestingly enough, I think it's more like social media making it a bigger deal than it is. It's actually not that much different than it has been in the past, but social media makes it seem way worse. Now, I will say some of the public beaches, especially in the summer, are a little crowded. And it really depends on the area. Even some of the private ones, an example, Seacrest, people will say private beach, private beach. Well, they have a tiny sliver of beach for hundreds of homes. And in fact, I have a picture somewhere where you can't even find sand to sit on, but
Wow.
it's a private beach. So it really depends on which beach. I will say the three that we own, and I feel like we kind of got lucky and remodeled, and they're cash flowing well, but I completely remodeled and designed them. Um, they all have private beach. So one has a private beach for 36 units, the other has a private beach for 24 units. And I felt like we bought before that was a big deal. And now that it's a big deal, it's nice to be able to tell people that. Like you don't have
Yeah.
to worry about the crowds, or you don't have to go 2 miles down the road to be able to go to the beach, even though you can see the beach right there.
Yep.
And then watercolor, they have the beach club, they have the private beach, but it's pretty crowded, to be honest. But it is nice to have the beach club and the pools and everything there.
Yep, everyone talks about watercolor being a pretty awesome place to be and visit and vacation at. I mean, we were on our flight and there was this guy, and I'm not the entire 2 hour flight. He was telling his buddy he has been vacationing at watercolor for years. He goes there every year. He loves it. I mean, I'd listen to every single thing that he loved about watercolor. So, it's got to be pretty great. This guy was all about it. My wife was even like, "Are you listening to this guy?" Like he did not stop. But it sounds like it's a beautiful place to be able to visit. So if an investor was wanting to invest in 30A and they wanted to possibly be able to find something that could cash flow at a 20% down payment. What areas would you say would be the areas to look at?
Yeah, so for me, I don't know if it'd be like any particular area. I would say be patient, find stuff that needs work and that
Hmm.
you have a vision. If it's going to be super clear that, hey, this is a slam dunk and anybody's going to make money, well, anybody would be buying it.
Yeah.
Like it would literally go pending after a day. So be patient, look, have a vision, be willing to add amenities, a golf cart, a pool, really be looking for value add in these properties. And that's what I'm looking for. I would say even the watercolor property that we have, we can still add a pool, the lot's big enough, we can still add a carriage house. As I'm looking for my next property this year, I'm thinking about, does it back to a green belt? Can you add a pool? Can you
Yeah.
add on square footage? And so that's what I'm thinking at and looking at for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. And it's what I tell all of the investors that I'm working with and helping find homes. And the west end of Panama City Beach has become extremely popular for people that want to be close to 30A, because you're 5 minutes from 30A. I have a couple million under contract right now with investors that they wanted to be in 30A, but they wanted really good cash flow. And they're buying these homes at, $500,000 less, 5 miles away. And their guests can drive 5 minutes to Inlet Beach and Rosemary, and so that west end of PCB has been kind of really popular recently, for that reason. But I'm still looking daily in 30A. I've toured properties every time I've been in 30A over the last 6 months, because as my business has grown, I'm shifting more out of Panama City Beach into other regions, and obviously 30A is one of those. So I have a savvy STR agent starting here very soon. That's going to be a 30A agent. So super excited about
Oh,
that.
nice. Yeah,
So.
that's something you have to think about. And, that's something that I'm thinking about is appreciation as well. And it's like, where are people going to next? Because obviously, watercolor's expensive, seaside's expensive, rosemary's expensive.
Yep.
But you see people start to go, yeah, to the west side, like Laguna and,
Yep.
Dune Allen on the other side, where it's a little quieter, but people are buying out there. And, you can still get stuff under 1 million that's close to the beach. And so I think that's going to be sort of that next pop, if you will,
Yeah, that
in a
West End. There's actually a 30A builder. I just toured a house the other day. It was a house. He built the exact same house in Seaside that he has on this West End PCB house. The West End PCB is on the market currently for 1.7. That exact house, the same distance from the beach in Seaside, was 2.9. So,
Oh, I can believe it.
we're
Yeah.
talking a $1.2 million difference for the identical house that are brand new on a similar size lot. So, pools, the whole work. So, that being said, Seaside, that entire 30A could be the area that my wife and I move to permanently in 14 months when we move down here. I don't know yet, but it definitely is an area we really enjoyed. So, one of the things that people ask me, when I have someone like you on here who is a competitor, and when it comes to property management, why I would have a competitor on here. And I have the abundance mindset that there is way enough business for everyone. And I have no doubt I'm going to be referring some real estate clients your way, as this next year or two unfolds. So, really, really glad you're able to kind of share where you're at. So last question I have, as far as owner reports, things like that. Are you using strictly just owner res reports, or do you have your own kind of reporting system that you're putting together?
So I am using Owner Res. It's not the best for the co-hosting clients. So I have looked at other tools. And so that's one thing that I'm thinking about is that automating that piece. As you know, Owner Res does not connect very well to any banking. So it's
Hmm.
it's a little manual. You're putting it in QuickBooks, you're putting it in Owner Res. And so I've looked at some of the tools out there, and it's interesting because some are awesome for expenses and some are awesome for revenue. And then I know some are working on like that other piece. So I feel like that's the piece we're missing is a software that's great for both.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, right now I use the owner's reports. For the co-hosting, I put together the spreadsheet, take out the places that they don't really care about, so they get the information that they need. But yeah, the reporting feature is still one of those, ongoing things that, make it a little bit tough. I'm very detailed on my QuickBooks spreadsheet that invoice that I send them, so their biggest thing is my QuickBooks invoice saying, okay, this is my fee, this, how many nights, my fee on your rent, and then really going down to anything that I had to pay out of pocket for maintenance, cleaning fees that didn't get sent to me. I do have the cleaning fees on the co-host side sent to me directly because last March I paid out over $10,000 in cleaning fees, and my bank account went from big to small really quickly. So I quickly switched to the Airbnb sending me the cleaning fee so I can pay the cleaners and not get reimbursed for that later. So I can't do that in Verbo, but I can do that on for co-hosting through Airbnb. So one of the reasons why I'm considering down the road switching over to the full PM model, like you have. So
Right. Yeah. It can be, yeah, the cash flow can be tough. Like I have one cleaning fee for a client that's 550. So
yep,
yeah, if they have a bunch of Verbo bookings, that one does not go directly to me, because they're set up as co-hosts. So I mean, yeah, you could be out thousands of dollars
yep.
waiting to get paid. And let's just say they're 3 weeks late, then you're 2 months.
Yeah. Thankfully, I have a pretty good connection with my owners. I usually get paid within 5 days of the first of the month. I invoice on the first, and I tell them to pay within 24 to 48 hours, and I'm usually all paid by the fifth. So mine are
Oh, that's good.
pretty good so far. I did have one that was a late payer, and he's no longer a co-host client of mine. So, but yeah, other than that, everything's been pretty good there. So yeah, so we definitely gonna have to hook up and meet sometime. We're so close to each other in the area. I'm going to be in 30A a lot more as we move forward with having a new savvy STR agent down there. So, I've really specialized in the PCB area over the past 3.5 years, and it's hard to learn 150 miles of coast. So we're growing our savvy team and have someone coming on. They're going to be 30A in Destin in the beginning. Eventually, I'll have a Destin Miramar agent as well. So starting that process now. So I'm
Awesome.
excited about that, but super excited. So if somebody was looking to hire you as a property manager in the 30A area, how do they find you? Your business name, and how do they find you?
Yeah, so my business name is 30A Five-Star Properties. So Five-Star Properties is all spelled out. So, go to my website, give me a call, Chelsea, or sales at 30A Five-Star Properties. So, and I'm always willing to just offer free advice because there's a lot of people that are just struggling. So even if, I'm not a good fit, I'm always happy to take a look at someone's listing and, just give them my 2 cents of what they can do to sort of improve.
Yeah. And, one of the things that attracted me to have you on this show is because you are really active on social media. I think you and I are probably two of the most posters and commenters on the Build STR Wealth page. I see you commenting all the time, and I am as well. But you're sometimes asking great questions and sometimes providing great value. And I think that's, it says a lot about you because that is, at the end of the day, we're here to help people in the community, help people and, make more money in property management and help people do other things. So love seeing all the stuff that you're doing. Very involved in social media. So if anyone's also looking for you, you can find Chelsea on the Build STR Wealth page. She'll be posting daily. I promise. So um,
Yeah, absolutely. And I love just collaborating and finding out what other people are doing. It's always really interesting to see, is there a better way? So I'm always just trying to learn and find out what others are doing and
yep,
doing podcasts and reading. I mean, it's always super interesting and I love it. So
yep. You're gonna be at the STR Wealth conference in July.
it's a maybe. I wish it wasn't in July, over the summer, because as you know, it's crazy busy in July.
Yep.
We just hit spring break and it's
Yes.
nuts. And then we got to go into summer. So I'm hoping.
Yep.
So
Yep. We're actually doing 2 weeks in Colorado right before Nashville, and then I come home, and then 24 hours later go to Nashville, the SDR Wealth Conference. So I'm pretty much going to be on the road for 3 full weeks, in the month of
oh
July.
wow,
So yeah.
that'll be a lot.
So well, hopefully you get to go there, and I get to meet you there. I'm actually going to Bill's co-hosting uh, retreat in May as well. So he's having
Oh,
a
awesome.
co-hosting retreat there. So that could be something you could join as well if you're interested. But I think he's got a couple more spots yet. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me today. Tons and tons of value. If anyone out there is looking for a co-host in the 30A or a property manager in the 30A area, I highly recommend Chelsea, and I know we'll be doing some business together. So thank you again.
All right. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Co-host Coach. We will see you next week.